Coalition defector Peter Slipper has had another hurdle thrown in his path back to this top seat in Parliament. Today, Tasmanian Independent Andrew Wilkie said the Speaker should be banished until all allegations against him are settled. Mr Slipper has stood down as Speaker while the Federal Court hears a claim of sexual harassment levelled by a male staffer and Federal Police check allegations that he criminally defrauded the Commonwealth. A short time ago, I was joined by Anthony Albanese, the Leader of the House and the man who recruited Mr Slipper to Labor's cause. Anthony Albanese, welcome.
Good to be with you, Chris.
Was it a mistake to make Peter Slipper Speaker?
No, Peter Slipper has been a good Speaker of the House of Representatives. He had been a good Deputy Speaker. He was the obvious person when Harry Jenkins stood down as the Speaker to participate once again in the political and parliamentary processes of the party. And Peter Slipper was elected unopposed as Speaker of the House. And if you look at his performance as Speaker, I think people in the press gallery as well as people across the Parliament have regarded him as having done a very good job, particularly in the key time of question time.
Well, he was only elected unopposed because you did a deal with him and no one from the Labor Party would actually stand against him. I remember Christopher Pyne trying to get almost anyone in the Labor Party to put up their hand, which is the normal process.
Well, Peter Slipper, of course, had previously been elected as the Deputy Speaker. He was someone who'd shown that he could handle chairing the Parliament. It's a robust Parliament. It's particularly robust in terms of the makeup of the Parliament and the particular attitude that Tony Abbott and what I've termed the coalition have taken to negative parliamentary tactics with their suspension of question time, for example, every day.
Getting Peter Slipper across the line was a parliamentary tactic to get an extra vote. And was he a fit and proper person to be Speaker of the House of Representatives?
Well, what we certainly knew, Chris, was that Peter Slipper is someone who'd been endorsed as a coalition candidate on 9 separate occasions, that Tony Abbott had spoken glowingly of him as late last year, that Tony Abbott had, of course, attended Peter Slipper's wedding. So we'd had endorsements from the coalition for a long period of time in Peter Slipper.
And you also knew that he had a cloud over his attitude towards entitlements for years. That was well known in Parliament.
Well, there are rumours around Parliament all the time. What we know is that Tony Abbott, during this term of Parliament, has said that there's no problem, as far as he could see, with Peter Slipper's entitlements. As well, of course, he said that he would defend his endorsement as a candidate at the 2013 election.
Is this the lowest common denominator here? Is what you're arguing is because the coalition knew that there was something wrong with Peter Slipper in the past, that then it's okay for you to make him the highest office holder in Parliament? Is that the standard that's being set?
No, what I'm saying very clearly, Chris, is that Peter Slipper was up to the job of being Speaker. He has demonstrated competence in his handling and chairing of the Parliament. With regard to other matters, all I'm saying is that it's a bit rich for Tony Abbott and the coalition to say there are all these problems now, when that is not what they were saying while Peter Slipper was a member of the coalition for all that period of time.
Do you genuinely believe that he can resume his seat as Speaker while there are allegations of sexual harassment hanging over him?
Well, we know, of course, that in the past people have held high office, such as Malcolm Turnbull and other ministers in the Howard government, while there was civil action against them. I think Peter Slipper has done the right thing by stepping aside whilst the issue of the cab charges, which could lead to criminal action if the allegations were correct, are dealt with. That's important.
But
so let's wait and see what comes through that.
Andrew Wilkie's already said that he believes that he should not resume this chair, and politically this won't stand. You will have the stench of these allegations attached to you as long as you are attached to Peter Slipper, won't you?
Well, look, the fact is that people in this country are entitled to proper processes.
Was Bruce Kafer, the commandant of ADFA, entitled to those proper processes?
People are entitled to proper processes.
Was Dr Peter Hollingworth entitled to those processes when the Labor Party went after him on the basis of allegations?
People are entitled to proper processes. Archbishop Hollingworth stayed in the position for some period of time.
With the Labor Party saying his position should be terminated.
In terms of Peter Slipper as the Speaker, it is appropriate whilst there's civil action. You've got to look at what the consequences are, Chris. If you say, if someone takes civil action, then we assume that they're guilty, we assume that they should be penalised and have to step aside from positions they'll be held. What that will do is encourage a whole range of civil actions in order to get people to step aside. So we can't have that situation. There's indeed a current South Australian Liberal senator who holds a number of positions in the Parliament who has civil action against him, serious matters. We haven't argued that they should step aside.
Will the government be paying his legal bills?
Look, the Attorney-General has addressed that question. I'm not an expert.
She didn't answer that question. In fact, she said she wasn't sure.
Well, she's addressed it. I'm not the Attorney-General, and I'm not conscious of all the processes that take place. I assume that what will occur is normal practice, as should happen, without political interference.
Do you think that it would be right if the government did end up paying his legal bills?
I think what should happen is normal practice, free of political interference. With all of this, Chris, it is important that we have a separation of the political arm of the state from the judicial arm, and that we don't have party political interference into these processes.
Finally, what do you think all this is doing, along with the Craig Thomson affair, to your party's brand, the party that you've served for your entire life?
Well, what I'm doing, Chris, is getting on with the job. I had a major announcement just yesterday about the Moorebank Intermodal Terminal.
Sure, but
this is the most important freight project for the east coast of Australia. Well, what I'm doing is getting on with my job. What I know Tony Abbott is only interested in is muckraking and negativity, so he's engaged in that. What I'm doing is doing my job as a minister in the government. We've got an important budget coming up in a couple of weeks' time. I think that will further cement us on the correct path moving into the future.
Anthony Albanese, thank you.
Good to talk to you, Chris.
And I should mention that after 2 days, we still have no definitive answer on whether the Commonwealth will pay Peter Slipper's legal bills should he ask for them to be paid. We'll keep you apprised of what happens on